I'm going to take a look at the animal notebook, but I'm going to take my mask off so that you can hear me clearly. This animal notebook was done by a third grader 2 years ago, so she's in the 5th grade now. Yours looks a little different, but not a whole lot. So we're going to go through the animal notebook. I hope that you've already gotten started on it, working on the My Favorite reports, finding some of your pictures that you're going to use. But it's just a simple folder. This looks a lot like the ones you guys use for homework folders and test folders. You do need to make sure that it has prongs on the inside of it so that you can put your papers in. You can hole punch your papers and put them in, or you can use page protectors, and even these you can get at the dollar store, so they're not very expensive, or Walmart or Target. The first thing that's going to be in your animal notebook when you open up the page is the title page. This tells me whose animal notebook is this. So this one belonged to Addison. She told me that she was in 3rd grade and she wrote a title, My Animal Notebook. And Addison chose to go ahead and put a couple of pictures on this page as well. Then we'll turn the page, and she started her first section of vertebrates. This will be the largest section in your animal notebook because you'll do more invertebrate research next year in 4th grade. So most of your stuff's going to be vertebrates. So on her title page, she went ahead and put some of her pictures, and notice that all of her pictures are labeled. So I know exactly what all of these animals are. You can get really specific with your labels. Like instead of horse, she could have written that this was an Arabian horse. It's not, but if she was to research what type of horse that was, she could tell me that as well. And then on the other page, there's the rest of her pictures. So for vertebrates, you get to pick 10 pictures. You can even put them front and back if you want to. She did not do that. She put some on each page. But you could do them on this side and then flip them over and have your pictures here as well. She also put in her little pet. Lots of 3rd graders like to add their pets, especially to the vertebrates if they have a cat or a dog. And she's labeled all of these as well. So those are her 10 vertebrate pictures. Then after that, you're going to put your My Favorite vertebrate. This is the one you do completely at home. Make sure that you're writing in pencil and that it is complete sentences as well. So a good idea to look for this information would be to ask your mom or dad if you can use their phone and start asking Siri if they can answer some questions. Or you're also taking your iPads home to do your homework. So if you have permission to be on the internet, you can be searching for facts about animals there as well. Do not be on the internet unless you have permission from your parents. So you're going to have to supply a little picture about your favorite vertebrate. A lot of kids do their pet, but not always. And then you're going to have to answer all these questions in complete sentences. Then you're going to start putting in your reports. And this is what looks a little different for you. Your report has a map on it that you've already filled out. So the only thing that's left in the report is the picture. You've already chosen the animal. Some of you even did the red-eyed tree frog. You've already done the work. You have searched it out. You filled out all the information. All that's missing is the picture. And we already sent all that home in the packet. I would encourage you to go back to Ducksters.com, and you'll see that the website is at the bottom of your report. Go back to Ducksters, and when you find the animal that you did at the top of the article, there's a picture. So you can go ahead and print that out. It can be in black and white, or it can be in color. That doesn't matter. And you'll be able to add the picture to your report. So you should have all of the vertebrates. That means they have a backbone. So amphibians, reptiles, fish, birds, and mammals should all be in the vertebrate section. That's the biggest part. Then you're going to do the invertebrate section. This is going to be a very small section of your notebook. So we've got the title, Invertebrates. Now Addison did this one on the computer. She did her labels on the computer as well. You can do this with your own handwriting. I've seen kids make their title page using stickers, like those scrapbooking things you see at Hobby Lobby and sometimes at the Dollar Tree and places like that. So you can get really creative with how you make your title pages. But everything has to be labeled. And you need to double check and make sure that they are invertebrates, meaning there's no backbone. So when I open up the invertebrate page, I should not see a picture of a penguin. A penguin has a backbone. It's a bird. It goes in the vertebrate section, okay? So then there's her 10 as well. So you get to pick of your own choosing 10 vertebrates and 10 invertebrates that you're going to put into your notebook. Here is her favorite. She chose lion's mane jellyfish. That's a pretty cool looking jellyfish, if you can see that. When you watch this video with your parents later, maybe you'll be able to zoom in a little bit and see that. So you see all of her information. I hope you checked out her beautiful penmanship on all of this information that she's filling in. Addison's mom didn't fill it in, and her dad didn't fill it in, and her grandma didn't fill it in. She filled it in. So everything that's done in handwriting has to be done in your own work. Nobody else can do this for you. Somebody can sit beside you and they can help you find the information, but you have to do all of the writing. If you choose to label the pictures with your own handwriting, it has to be yours, not somebody else's. But you can type it in and make a label on the computer, and I'll show you how to do that too. There's her invertebrate report. We all did the same invertebrate. Remember that? Because it was our first report. So they all look the same, and you'll have to put a picture there. All right, so Addison has done a hand-drawn ecosystem. Everybody has to have an ecosystem. It has to have a couple of different animal species and plant species, and she chose to do an ocean ecosystem. It needs to look like a third grader drew it. I don't need an ecosystem that looks like a famous artist put it together. All right, it needs to look like your work. So there's all kinds of ecosystems, and on the instructions we listed a lot of them: the forest, the ocean, pond, the desert, the beach, Arctic tundra. So you're going to have to figure out a couple of animals that fit in that ecosystem and a couple of plants that fit in that ecosystem and make together this ecosystem for me. This is required. And it does need to be hand drawn. So you cannot go to the computer and Google search forest ecosystem and click print and put it in your notebook, because that's plagiarism. We've talked about plagiarism before. You cannot use somebody else's work as your own. So you need to be drawing this in. Show me your artistic abilities. The last part is optional. This is the food web. So if you do all of the things in this, including the food web, and you turn it in on time, you could get a 105 on this project. If you don't do the food web, the highest grade you can get is a 100 on this project. If you do everything else, it's on the right category, and you turn it in on time. Okay, so the food web, we've done these before. You can even use your science book as an idea to remind yourself how to do the food web. So she drew in the different animals, and then remember the arrows point to how the movement of energy. Doesn't mean that the grass eats the grasshopper. It means that the energy moves from the grass to the grasshopper when the grasshopper eats it. So this is optional. I've had students make theirs match, like their ecosystem and their food web were from the same ecosystem. I do need you to make sure that it makes sense. So on a food web, we would not have a blue whale and a giraffe on the same food web. They don't eat the same things. They don't live in the same ecosystem. Same thing for the ecosystem. Let's not put a polar bear and a Bengal tiger in the same ecosystem, or a kangaroo and a narwhal. They don't live in the same places, okay? So think that through, and if you want some suggestions, you need some ideas, you want to check it by me, you can do that. Now here's the cool thing about this. If you get this done early, so this is due next Friday, the 30th. If you get it done by the 27th, by Tuesday, you can bring it in and we'll look at it and we'll let you know if you've got everything you need. That'll give you a couple of days. Now, if you bring it to me on the 29th, I'm not going to be able to look at it and send it back home with you, okay? So if you will check it by the 27th, then we'll bring it in, you can bring it in and we'll look over it and make sure you've got everything you need, okay? Now, I'm going to go to the back to the computer, and I want you to watch the screen because I'm going to show you how you can find pictures to add to your animal notebook, and we're getting them from pictures that are free for everybody to use. Some pictures are copyrighted, which means you have to have permission to use them, and we're going to use ones that are free. So if you open up a Word document, you've learned how to do that in computer class, and you go to Insert and click Online Pictures, this will come up, and you can search. Bing is a search engine like Google. It's just a different company. So we can search, because I'm doing vertebrates, let's search a kangaroo. Do you see this gray box right here that says Creative Commons Only? And it is check marked. That means that every picture that comes up is free for anybody to use. You don't have to cite your source. You don't have to get permission to use the picture. So if you'll come here and make sure that that Creative Commons is clicked, everything's free. And right there, I don't want to use the drawing. I want to use the actual picture. Oh, look, she's got a little Joey too. Now, we're going to have to resize it a little bit because you see how this was a big picture and the elephant's now sitting on the kangaroo's head? So if we come over here to this little box that says Layout Options, and I come all the way down to the bottom and it says In Front of Text, and click that. Oh, now the kangaroo is in front of the elephant. Thank goodness he's off her head. Then I can use these to shrink it down a little bit. And now I've got the elephant and the kangaroo, looks like a red kangaroo, on the same page. I can go to Insert and choose to make a text box, and I'm going to draw a text box because it's just easier to make a label that way. So I'm going to draw a text box, and then I'm going to write that this is the red kangaroo. I'm going to highlight it. You've done all of this in computer class. I'm going to enlarge, let's take it to 22 font. I'm going to enlarge it. I'm going to center it. And then I'm going to pull it down a little bit so I can see all of it. And there's my label. I could do it on the computer. So I could get all of the pictures that I need onto 1 or 2 pages depending on the size that you make them. And then you're only printing out 1 or 2 pages instead of printing out all the pictures and then cutting them out and then pasting them. So that would be a whole lot easier for you guys to do. All right, we're going to share this video with your parents so that you can go back and watch it again if you need to.